te it weer bu dee nit taxaw te it weer bu dee nit taxaw la tàllal la loxo dama ne askan wi jox leen ma seen noppa ndaxte Kairasuul Properties ñoom ñoo ñëw nag génne fi loolu bam set wecc ne néegi luwaas kenn du ko fayati ndaxte ñu ngi leen amal bërëbu dëkkeekaay yu yàñña dëkkeekaay yi nga xamante ne nii ñu ngi ko jaayee foofu sa Lamin Kerewan bërëbu dëkkeekaay yi nag li nga xam ne moom mooy ndox ak courant mu fa lépp loo soxla sa wàllu dëkkeekaay Kairasuul Investment Limited mu ngi la ko fa amal Kairasuul Investment Limited nag seen bërëbu dëkkeekaay yi ñu ngi ko jaayee si cash price muy jar si ñaar téeméeri junney dalasi ñaar téeméer ak juróom fukki junney dalasi ñaar téeméer ak juróom fukki junney dalasi mortgage nag foo ko dégg mooy fay nanka ba fay bi jeex nga fay ko si diiri juróom benni weer dama ne Kairasuul Properties njaaxare jeex na coono jeex na tëddal nelaw si sa kër boo nelawee sa gannaaw bandang Kairasuul Properties daw leen dem seeti seen kër yi foofu noonu sa Lamin Kerewan.
Everyone for coming. Thank you for coming here. We'll want to please start with a minute silence for the victims of police brutality that has passed away, and also for the country itself, because we are going through very trying times. So can we please have a minute silence? Amen. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll introduce our panelists today. We have Mariama Bojang, that's the PRO for Team Gomsabopa. And we have Patrick Gomez, he's the legal representative for Killa Ace. You have Flex Dan, he's a member of Team Gomsabopa. And you have Yama Misise, she's like the mother of the victim center. And of course, last but not the least, that's Dabah Malik, he's a social commentator. So today we are here because of the things that have been going on, and us as a movement, which is Team Gomsabopa, things that it's only right that we call the media and make sure that we put out something that is going to show our position in everything that is going on. So we're going straight to the topic of discussion. I'll invite Patrick first. Madi Jobata is invited, but he's going to be a little bit late. So I'll invite Patrick first to give a statement from the legal point of view, and of course his own personal opinion when it comes to what is going on, because everybody has a responsibility, because it's a national issue. So Patrick Gomez.
Everyone present. I hope you heard me very I'm a lawyer, and I've been representing Ali Cham, Killa Ace, for quite a while now. So I will just give you a brief history as to how I came into this case, the Killa Ace case, and then perhaps I will invite questions in relation to this matter and this matter alone. We all know that Mr. Ace, Ali Cham, had been arrested prior to this arrest in relation to what he believed to be police brutality. In fact, he claims that he was being beaten by the police. It happened sometime at the late 2018 when he was arrested around the market, Sarakuna market, and then he claimed that he was being seriously beaten and that his rights have been violated by the police. And therefore, the police now in turn, they decided to charge him in relation to resisting arrest and then in relation to behaving unlawfully in the public and so on and so forth, and also destroying police property. And then now we are in that case, and that case is at the stage of a defense when we're supposed to enter our defense and prove or try to establish that in fact what they are claiming is in fact the other way around, that he was the one who had been a victim of the police and not him assaulting any police officer. So in the same vein too, we have a similar scenario wherein there had been allegation that someone died in custody of the police, to be much more precise, the anti-crime unit. And then that person is a Sierra Leonean national, if I'm right. And therefore, we all know that some youths went out in the street in trying to demonstrate and send a message that what happened was definitely wrong and shouldn't have happened in this modern dispensation. And therefore, what happened afterwards was that there had been allegations that the compound or the house of the police chief, Commissioner Gurgim Boop, was being burned down, and then they suspected that some people who were members of the demonstration were actually responsible. So it is on that base that Mr. Killa had been arrested among other people. I believe the number should be 37, and then they have been charged, I think it's about 8 counts, and 3 of the counts are capital offenses because that they are in relation to rioting. And then what makes them capital offenses is that they attract a maximum penalty of life in jail. And the other count is also arson, and arson also attracts a similar sentence. So that also makes it a capital offense. And under our new law, the argument is that it is not bailable, and therefore, even though there is new and modern jurisprudence which states otherwise. So that is where we are now. They were charged almost a week ago formally at the Carnival Magistrates Court. So what happened there was that the prosecution, once they filed these 8 counts, they also made an application that let the case be transferred to the High Court, because the lower court, being the Magistrates Court, does not have jurisdiction to entertain those matters. So now we also equally made an objection on grounds that it should not be transferred, but rather those counts that the court does not have jurisdiction on should be struck out. The reason why we made that application is on 2 folds. If any one of you were in court on that day, you will realize that we have argued, number 1, that it's an abuse of process, that they knew fully well that the court doesn't have jurisdiction, and then yet still they preferred those charges before the Magistrates Court, and then with the sole intention of punishing the individuals, which led to our second argument that the counts were being brought before the Magistrates Court in bad faith. And bad faith, we believe, should not be the base of any prosecution, because there should be prosecution. The state is mandated to prosecute anybody that has been suspected of committing any crime, and there should not be persecution. So in our argument, bad faith clearly implies that they brought the charge in bad faith, and therefore it amounts to persecution and not prosecution, and therefore the court should not, in fact, transfer the matter, because their argument was that if the court should transfer the matter, then they should be detained. And then we argue that instead of the court detaining them and transferring them to the High Court, the police knew fully well that the court had no jurisdiction. In fact, they preferred these charges and drafted these charges knowing fully well that the court had no jurisdiction, and they in fact cited the relevant laws which oust the court from jurisdiction, which remove the jurisdictional part from the court. So therefore, you cannot now, it is much of an irony when you know fully well that someone doesn't have the powers to give you the prayers that you're seeking for you, but yet still you make those prayers. You understand? You're asking an individual to give you rain, knowing fully well they can't give you rain. So to us, it's an abusive process, because you know fully well what you're doing. So that is the stage we're in now. The court then adjourned for ruling to decide whether to transfer the case at the High Court and remand the accused persons, or to also strike out the matter, the 3 counts that the court had no jurisdiction on, and then move ahead with the counts that the court can definitely try the accused persons with. So it was on that basis that the court decided they will be remanded pending the outcome of the ruling whether to transfer or to strike out the matter. So that is where we are now. In fact, based on the, several deliberations now, the number of the lawyers have in fact increased in defending these people. The number should be around 4 or more. And then we are hopeful that the Alicham and Co will definitely have a very, very strong defense whenever the need arises. Yes, at this point, I will invite questions in relation to this matter alone, and then we will move ahead from there. Yes. Yes, sir?
My question is not related to the charges you're talking about. But have you, as his lawyer, made attempts to go see him an injunction? Of course, there were claims of them being singled out for by the
Yes, in fact, I did. I can't remember the day. I think a day or two after he was detained, I visited him at the mile 2. In fact, Mr. Ace and I had been having several discussions in relation to what the police will do and what they may not do, because I have experience in relation to people they detain. Some of the things that they do dated back to the previous regime, wherein they use all these tactics to suppress and perhaps torture or mental torture and make you actually try to succumb to their own will. So yes, he knows fully well what he has to expect. Like another inmate that perhaps the government or the police have interest in, that is a very expected move that they do. So in fact, even before he was detained at the central prison, when he was transferred to Kairaba police station, his close peers will tell you clearly that he was in fact at some point removed alone and transferred all the way to Banjul. That, in my opinion, amounts to mental torture, it's emotional torture, and therefore these are the things that the state or people in authority usually do to make sure that they break you down. So yes, I've visited him, and yes, these things I know about, and these things he already expected will happen. Yes?
Sorry, just a little bit of clarity. What did you say you expected to happen? Like, what I meant is, what did he tell you?
No, what he told me will definitely be client-lawyer privilege communication, and I can share that with the press, definitely, and I cannot comment beyond what I know as a lawyer in relation to these cases, but my communication with my client, definitely I can share with all due respect. Yes? Okay, to start with, any charge that should be preferred against anybody should be the base of a thorough investigation and a concluded investigation, perhaps, unless of very serious and grave crimes, maybe perhaps, what will I think of? Let's say terrorism-related charges. Perhaps sometimes the investigation may not be completed, but for the good of the public, you may necessarily arrest the suspected criminals and then detain them while you are still investigating. But in this situation, we will expect that they will have done their investigation. We will expect that the investigation would not be prejudiced in the sense that they will just not target someone by virtue of the fact that you have been very outspoken, you have been very critical in the way that the government does about its daily issues or decisions or so. So we'll expect that it will not be biased investigation. Whether they have very strong evidence against him, I will say definitely I don't think so. I am not in their shoes to definitely say. What will amount to a very strong evidence is very subjective. It depends on what the person that feels that they have evidence. But I think speaking to my client and knowing fully well the situation on that day, I do not think that definitely he is responsible for the accusations of burning the house of Gomsabopa.
Would I be correct to say that there is no evidence to prove that he was one of those people?
I cannot say that. I cannot tell whether you will be correct or not. Definitely, whether you will be correct or not is also very, very subjective. It depends on what you know, where you that will be the base of your conclusion. But I think no one also can say that you are not correct in saying that Mr. Ace was not present because maybe you are privy to an information that we don't know. I am inclined to share your own opinion. But then let's wait and see what the police have. If they have something that's compelling and that's strong, then we will decide on whether it's in fact a good evidence or not. But then ultimately, the judge or the magistrate will decide whether actually the evidence that they have is definitely compelling and convincing to convict him and the others.
Yes.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, fine.
Yes, Yankuba.
Yes, I have two questions.
Very well.
You said you have communication with him, that you are not, you are relying on your privilege.
Yes.
Now I want to ask, did you complain of torture or any right violation? That is one. And two, in case tomorrow the ruling goes against you, is there any possibility that you will go to the High Court for file for a state of prosecution while the case proceeds?
For stay, in fact, there's no process like a stay of prosecution. What we have is you just appeal. If you are dissatisfied with any decision, you just appeal. In fact, I'm supposed to meet my colleagues right now to decide as to strategize as to what to do. There are so many legal avenues that someone can do to actually secure the release of your client on bail, and also to, in fact, defend your client to the best of your ability in accordance with law. In relation to your first question, which is whether there had been information in relation to torture, I will be very much, I don't know how to even say it, to even answer that question, because answering that question will definitely mean that I will definitely disclose the client-lawyer privilege communications. What I can tell you is Mr. Ace will be out, hopefully very, very soon. He owns the communication privilege. He is the one who can decide to talk to the public as to communication he made between him and his lawyer. But I have no authority to do that. Yes, I'm afraid I can't do that. Yes. Okay, that is the first question, right? Okay. Baba try ma answer la si wolof. So waxee ne moom moo dugal boppam daf maa xaw a réel tuuti su dugal boppam si lan parce que man maa yow ñu ngi def Gambia ku nekk dafa am loo mën a loo war a contribute towards the development of this country. So am na ñoo xam ne dañ decide pour nekk an activist dama dee waga every time li ngeen decide loolu ngeen nekk loolu mu nekk seen call. It comes with consequences. You must accept it. Man Patrick Gomez dama decide pour ne dama nekk avocat lawyer xam naa lan la ñëwal wit benn si lu ñëwal wit ma ngi ko def right now yow da nga decide pour nekk ida journalist also moo tax nga toog foofu noonu right si la loi bi may kenn mayut la ko. The right to choose what to do, the right to say what to do in accordance with law. Understand nga da nga xam ne soo da nga foog ne yow da nga nekk di wax rek loo xam ne moo wrong si society bi in the government, that is your right. waaye ma laaj la ndax ñun soxluñ loolu noonu si dëkk bi so da nga foog ne soxluñ ko bés boo xam ne yow or anybody else sa right dañ ko da nga feel ne dañ si dëggaat daal kon kan moo lay xeexal because loi bi dañ war a xam leen loi buñ binda dama de always wax ne even time Yaya Jammeh the law was beautiful. The constitution is not very much bad nekkul lu bon nekkul ne dafa am na yoo xam ne définir am na loi yoo xam ne baaxut waaye tamit am na yoo xam ne tamit définir mu ngi fa waaye ñun ñoo war a seetaat suñu boppa parce que ñun rights yi they are there to be enforced foog nga enforce ko. So the freedom of speech man du ma leen nangu kenn koo xam ne da ngaa wax ne du ma mën a wax lu ma ne tamit even though xam nañ ne every right comes with a responsibility so corresponding responsibility waruloo suñu ne da nga am right to life soo reyee nit foog ñu teel a teg la benn place suñu ne da nga am right pour wax lu la ne of course soo saagee nit koo xam ne waruloo ko saaga foog ko tam yóbbal si loi waaye loi bi tam dafa teg ay sarta yoo xam ne loolu la nit war a toppa sooy da nga feel ne dafa am ku yaaxal loi police seen boppa gars yi nekkuñ above the law. Understand issue bi no government official in fact is above the law so every other person koo xam ne da nga feel ne nit dafa yaaxal loi you also must follow procedure so feel ne Patrick dafa yaaxal loi foog nga am probable cause to arrest Patrick nga seet lan la yaaxa nga investiguer ko warta nekk loo xam ne da nga mer rek ñëpp xam nañ ne góor gi bu police la but soo defee sa boppa public in a public office you are a public figure and if you're a public figure of course every day nga wax about Barrow about President Obama, about President Trump, about any other person. So if you're a public figure, warloo mën a wax duñu wax si yow man su ma nekkoon wéykat sax mën naa am du ma wéy góor gi buub MC rek naa wéy lu gën a mag góor gi buub so basically daal sa right la daal pour nga def loo xam ne loolu nga feel ne yaa ngi protect sa right ak keneen right am in accordance with the law te man gisuma si benn fànna boo xam ne moom daf ko yaaxa si release way pour wax ne moom àndut ak lii oo xam na li ku xam dara nga xam man moo xamul lu ma xam de waaye su waxee ne lu la xam and then amul benn loi bu so dafa yaaxa loi si release that way bu ni kon nga arrest ko bi yaaga si in relation to releasing that music understand nga xam nga answer na sa question clearly that whatever the claims from the police is exactly the claim from my client. He was saying he is the victim and not the police. The police are not the victim. He was the one who was being beaten. So police brutality is something that cannot be encouraged. It's something that everyone should stand up against because of the fact that we have lived under police brutality for so long. Either you're a victim or you know someone who is a victim. We all watch the TRRC. We all hear what has been happening. So I for one think that we should support any cause that is against police brutality. They are not against the law. When I studied earlier in law, there was this question that we always ask: Who polices the police? That is a question that everyone asks. It's easy for them to just jump and say that XYZ commits a crime, XYZ did XYZ, because they have the plain cards. They can decide who to charge, who not to charge. But apparently, we have a stronger position because the citizenry are much more powerful. What they should understand is that if that is their norm, if that is the culture that they want to adopt. Mr. Jajema was here for 22 years. So you can only suppress the people for so long, but you can never, ever silence the people forever. So I think we should all stand up against police brutality, wherever it happened. I'm with the opinion that if that is the case, if that's what they are doing, they are not treating the situation fairly. I think they should let the people know, even if they're investigating the cause of death, as to what happened. I understand that there is a statement that post-mortem will be done. I also stated clearly somewhere that it doesn't matter whether Mr. Dabo died in custody or out of custody. That is not the question. The question is what brought about his death. If there is evidence that he was actually tortured, in fact, if he was released afterwards and the injuries inflicted upon him are actually the cause of his death, then it means that he died definitely in the hands of the authorities that arrested him. But then we will have to wait for any possible investigation that they may launch and see whether in fact that has been the situation or not. It could also be the situation that didn't happen, but the burden is on the state to come up with a proper investigation and either proof otherwise that in fact Mr. Dabo did not die out of in any form of beating by the police or not. That is the burden that they have. It is something that they owe the people in the Gambia, and I expect and I am hoping that they will come up with such very, very soon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomez. Yeah. Yes. That's exactly why they are all sitting here. Thank you very much.
So basically, the lawyer,
no, it's all right.
He has a meeting with the team of lawyers. So it's supposed to have left.
It's okay.
So that's why he has to go. Yeah, we offered him to answer questions.
Yeah. And I think he did very well, because a lot of things have been cleared out. And the questions were very interesting too. I just wanted to actually add a couple of things that probably people don't know, because as a civil society organization, I think everything that is going on right now, we have to look at things from the perspective of everybody has a responsibility. As a civil society organization, which is Gomsabopa, when Killa Ace and the rest of the youths were arrested, we did not just wake up and just start saying things. We did what we were supposed to do. We went and did an investigation. We did our fact-finding. That is how we came to know how many people were arrested. And I think that actually really helped the media houses to actually get the exact figure of how many people were arrested, which I think is part of their responsibilities to do. But we did that as a civil society organization, and we provided those informations. And we have been putting out statements to make sure we have an update on what is going on about the whole situation. So it was not only about Killa Ace. It was about the 37 youths that were arrested. And even our campaign of getting them bailed or released, we always put the Killa Ace and the 37. We always put the 36 youths there. So it's not only about Killa Ace. That being said, I'll invite Daba Malik to come and give a short statement. And of course, we are just joined by Mr. Jobate. And we'll have Mr. Jobate. Then we'll have Flex to read the Gomsabopa statement itself. Daba.
When we look back and reflect, probably 2016 December, if young people of the Gambia were told in 2019 today we'll sit down here and talk about free our young people, a lot of us probably would not have believed it. But today it's here, it's happening. And for me, I just want to speak a little bit about ACE because I don't think people are really fair about the way he's been branded, especially on social media. And I just have to make this thing clear because for me, I came to know ACE 10 years ago. And most of the time, he's at the Serakunda market, and that's true. And what a lot of people don't know is he has a shop at the market. And I think that is very important that we put it out there. Ace does not just go to the market because he wants to create trouble. No, that's where he makes his living apart from music. Yes, he's an artist. I do call him rap activist. He combines both rap music and activism together. And also, I think it's important that we dissect what actually happened because these young people did not just jump one day and then just walk out on the street because they are angry or they are frustrated. You know, we know, and this is a fact because a lot of us live in neighborhoods that are termed slums or the ghetto. And I always say this and I will keep saying these things. It's good. We need the police, we need anti-crime because we have to live in peace as a nation. But so also, the police must do their job within the context of the law. And a lot of us could attest, we've seen anti-crime commit crime, you know, because it becomes worrisome when institutions that are mandated by law to protect or limit crime, they themselves go all out the way to commit crime. It's a question that we need to ask ourselves because for me, I live in London Corner and I've seen anti-crime comes and, you know, they find young people even sitting at the gate of your compound and they just come and they jump over people, start beating you up, and which I don't think any Gambian should encourage because we all know what we have passed through for the past 22 years. And I don't think what is very clear is whether it's this government or subsequent governments that will come over is what they need to understand is nobody is taking us back to those days. And that is very clear. Even if it means us standing up to the system, we'll continue doing it. What is important is nobody, including myself, will stand here and defend people when they go out to commit crime. Nobody is also going to support the burning down of the houses of Gomsabopa. But my question is the house of Gomsabopa more important than the life of that family man who is alleged, because I will emphasize on the word alleged, that he died out of police torture? Whether, like the lawyer said, whether it was in custody or outside custody, for me, is irrelevant. What is more important is government needs to make sure that they investigate to know whether he was tortured while in police custody or he was not tortured. Because if he was tortured in police custody and then released and then he died, so then the police have a case to answer. So, and also looking at the case of Killa, because when he was arrested, we went to Keraba police station, and I think from the beginning, from the onset, you came to realize, you know, Ace as an individual was being singled out by the police, because I was there that very morning, and there was even altercation between the young people who were there and some of the police officers, because some of the police, the perception they have about young people, especially young people that live in certain communities in Gambia, like if you live around Bundung, London Corner, Ibo Town, you know, they tend to see you as somebody who's a troublemaker, maybe a weed pusher, a drug taker, or stuff like that. And I think that's the image that they need to release from their mindset. Because we all know some of the biggest criminals live in very luxurious neighborhoods, and we know about this. And what makes me even more disappointed with the government is, not long ago we heard about the drug case at the ports. What are they doing about it? Are they coming out to talk to citizens? Are they trying to prosecute those people that are alleged to have brought in those drugs in this country? Is the case of Killa and the 36 youths more of a national security threat to a drug, or do they want to sit down and watch Gambia be turned into a drug zone? And because we know a lot of our young people are taking drugs, and who are bringing these drugs into this country? You know, these are things that I think for me it's more important, because if they care so much about the future of the young people, who in one day, sooner or later, will inherit the affairs of this country, I think they should put all their efforts and energy to fight drugs. We have heard about the diplomatic passport issues. It's becoming almost a week. Nobody is coming out to tell us anything. You understand? So for me, it becomes a matter of selective justice, and I don't think, looking at what we came from, Gambians should sit down and watch just because Killa Ace carries dreadlocks, because he sings songs that the police think is disrespectful. Yes, the lyrics might be hard, but like, if you don't want to be mentioned, I think it's better you do the right thing, because police brutality is something that is happening, and we are living witnesses to it. We saw it every day, you know, and these are things that will encourage young people to resist, because if it, like the Wolof will say, pusante sinyak bilayam, and I don't think like we should just sit down and watch police come brutalize us just because we live in neighborhoods that they think, you know, it's a slum or whatever, you know. So for me, I think these are issues that we need to look at. And also, I've been involved in these issues from the beginning. I've heard some people raise issues that we concentrate more on Killa Ace. For me, what I'm going to say with regards to that is, it's about, you know, when you communicate, you do branding. And one of the most known person within the group is Killa Ace. So for us to send our message out there, we have to use his name and include the others. Because probably it's easier for Ace to capture the international media, and you know, it becomes a high-profile case than when you use somebody that a lot of us even don't know, you know, to fight about this. But what is more fundamental and important is it's not only Ace that we are fighting for, but we are fighting for the liberation. And when I say liberation, it's unconditional liberation of all these young people that they put behind bars. Because the truth is, I don't believe the police have tangible evidence to point at Ace and the rest of the young people. Yes, the house was burned, it's true, but me organizing a demonstration does not justify that I orchestrated, you know, destruction of public or private properties. Yes, we know demonstrations, when they happen, you know, we cannot guarantee 100% that everybody who is going there with the same aim and, you know, objectives of those who organize the demonstration. But for me, what is more fundamental is the reason why they came out to demonstrate. Was it worth it? Yes, it was it, because when a life is lost, you know, especially a colleague, somebody that you work with every day, and is alleged to have died out of police brutality, I think it's important that the least you can do is to stand up, you know, and seek justice for that person. And I think that's what those people who organized that demonstration that very day, that is the reason why they went out there to go and express themselves that they are not happy and demand that government, you know, investigate and probably, you know, shed light on the circumstances that led to the death of that young person. Because that guy, he's a family man like all of us. And even if he was not a family man, I think every life is precious, and we call ourselves believers. And, you know, we know in the Quran, God says, like, when you spare one life, it's like you spare a whole generation. And when you take a life, it's like you kill a whole nation. So for me, it's fundamental and it's important that we stand up for each other. And I am also a bit disappointed, and I'm going to say this. Ace did not ask me to say it, but I will say it, you know. Gambians are very fond of, like, when Ace did that song, Kuboka Sigetegi Nancy Meum, a lot of politicians use his song as a campaign tool. A lot of activists, a lot of Gambians, a lot of people who had interest in effecting change use his song as a rallying call for a lot of young Gambians. And we all knew in 2016, I'm not going to say like young people alone did it, but young people played a very great role, and they played a very big part in effecting that change in terms of numbers at the voting, at the polls, but not only that, in terms of mobilization and, you know, giving support to a lot of these political leaders. And I don't think those political leaders today should sit back and then be prosecuting the same young people that put them in office. So now the question is, as young people, what are we going to do? Are we just going to keep following these politicians that have no interest of the young people of the Gambia? Because a lot of them are interested only in themselves and their immediate families, because that is what we have seen. And I keep saying these things for the past 54 years. What have governments or politicians done for young people of this country? We have seen, even though young people played a greater part in effecting the change, what percentage were represented in terms of governance and, you know, the government itself with regards to young people. What we saw was, you know, them, the politicians, sharing positions within themselves, their immediate families and people that they thought are close to them. So should we continue to be cheerleaders for politicians, or should we stand ourselves and look at ourselves as young people and dictate our future and take it in our own hands and say, this is where we want to go to, this is where we want to take this country to. And then we make sure that if we are united, I believe we can get there. Because if you have a population that has almost 60% of the population has young people, we are a very strong force, and unless and until we recognize that and we unite and stand on one platform and put the interests of Gambia ahead of our individual interests, our ethnic interests, religion, gender, and all these stuff, politicians will keep dividing us at the same time, sending us to mile two. Because one of the biggest criminals in Gambia are civil servants. These are people that steal the little funds that we have every day. They are not prosecuted, they are not taken to court, their names are not called out. But when a police officer caught a young person with just a single joint of marijuana, you are paraded, you know, in public, you are prosecuted, but also you are sent to jail. So do we want to continue to live in a society that protects criminals, people who steal state funds that were supposed to be used to empower the young people of this country?
Thank you very much. I just want to say a few things. For 54 years, the political class of this country have failed the masses of this country. And it has become imperative for us to have a recognition of this fact today in 2019. In 1970, the Gambian people were convinced to go and vote in a referendum to have a Republican and an independent society, and the people went. And they voted. And subsequently, after every time the political class had demanded for the Gambian people to come and help them in their endeavors, which is to get votes, the Gambian people have always showed up, always at the center of trying to change things and believing in the promises of this political class. 1st December 2016 was a very pivotal moment when the political class of this country came to the Gambian people and convinced them that if they take out Yahya Jammeh, they will be able to stay the course and the destiny of this country towards safer waters. Now, almost 3 years into this government, we've seen again how the political class of this country continues to betray the wishes, the dreams, and the aspirations of our people. They say one thing and do another thing. They talk about democracy and human rights, but they don't believe in it. What they do instead is to use it as speech points. And one of the most significant speech points in this country with these political parties and the state is the youth. So youth are always mentioned. Oh yeah, we care about the youth. We care about youth empowerment. We want you to, we're taking care. We want to create jobs. Because we know rhetoric and speech on youth is profitable. But youthful life in this country continues to be humiliated, to be criminalized, to be targeted, to be profiled. And what we see with this arrest of Ace and the 36 others is symptomatic of a greater disease, that if Gambians don't wake up, it's only a matter of time. I mean, today it's arrest, and tomorrow, considering our most recent history, and we will be very, it will be very foolish of Gambians to enter into historical amnesia, knowing that what we came out of is very fresh still. And the TRRC is a perfect testimony as to how fresh this history is, which is that Yahya Jammeh tested the waters, and there was no resistance per se that would say this far and no further. We just let him do what he has to do. And over time, because there was no resistance, he was able to institute an authoritarian state. And this is what Barrow will be doing today. He will be testing the waters. If I arrest these people, They will make noise, of course. People will say things. But if we stop at making noises, if we stop at mobilizing, if we stop at just Facebook posts, then we are not going to get anywhere, because democracy and human rights are not mere images, are not mere beautifications of a state. They're supposed to be lived realities. And if they're not lived realities, then where would we go from here? Then the repression and the authoritarianism and the tyranny and the corruption of Barrow and his government will only get deeper. And over time, we will reach a point where to raise our voices will be useless, because we'll be well past that stage. We will inaugurate another corrupt dictatorship, another tyranny. We have a government today that has shown us clearly that it doesn't care about the people of this country. What it cares about is it's how much it can gain from looting our people. And there's evidence to show for this. It's like they're reacting. So, in conclusion, I want us to remember that as young people and as old people alike, we have a historic responsibility towards our people. Most of our people are uneducated, and they sacrifice something for us to be educated. And I'm talking to the educated people of this country, that you owe it to your people to stand up for what is right. We owe it to our people, not just the 36 people, but to the vendor who is in Serekunda market selling in that stench, to the farmer who is going to lose yield because this government refuses to do an analysis of our weather system and tell them that the rains will be late, because they don't care. You owe it to those people today to stand up for what is right, to stand up for democracy and human rights, not as just mere statements, but as something that we must live. That if you refuse to make the rule of the people an actual reality in this country, then we will become ungovernable. Then we will refuse your rule. Then we will not accept your governance. Then we will not accept your authority. Because we will not accept another tyranny. We will not go through another 22 years. And after 30 years of failure from 1965 to 1994, then from 1994, I know today we are canonizing Jawara, and nothing should be said of him. I mean, in lieu of the respect of the dead, I will let that slide. But we cannot keep celebrating our failures. We must analyze our situation today and try to move forward and organize for the greater glory of our people. Thank you.
Authority for years, but the same thing happens, and they will never be changed until the perpetrators are kicked out of the system. Gorgimbub has to go, the IGP has to go. Those are the words of Killa Ace. Does that sound like an arsonist to you? Or does that sound like somebody who is concerned that another person, another young person has been killed, allegedly killed? In 1 month in July, 2 people were gone. We said goodbye to 2 brothers. How many more brothers will we have to say goodbye to? The anti-crime must take responsibility for this. They are the ones who arrested Killa Ace and many of the others on that fateful day. It's the anti-crime who arrested Killa Ace and many of the others. So they must take responsibility for this situation right now. Gorgimbub is the head of anti-crime, or one of the leaders of anti-crime. We know that as a fact. And we need to reiterate, who is this man called Gorgimbub? He's the same individual that has been indicted in the April 10-11 Commission report. And he's the same individual who needs to come and face the TRRC so that we can know exactly what motivated him then, as a younger officer, to fire bullets at students who were supposed to go and sit their exams. Those are the kind of leaders that we have in our security forces heading anti-crime. And today, Killa Ace is an arsonist. Killa Ace is a criminal. In mile 2, we need to be very, very conscious of what the real narrative is. Killa Ace is a victim here. And not only is he a victim, he's been standing for victims before him. He stood for the victim center. And he will continue to do that. Anti-crime will not be able to stop him from doing that. Our group as a movement Team Gomsabopa, we had a press conference last month about the situation in the Gambia that led up to the protest, about Keba Seka, who was stabbed and killed. Until today, the family have not seen any remorse or condolences from the authorities. And it's on record that the press release that has been issued by the police have admitted that the killer is a security officer. The killer is a security officer. Yet still, they have not made condolences to the family of Keba Seka. His 40 days, we were there as Team Gomsabopa, whilst Killa Ace was being dragged around from different police stations. Yet still, we were there because we care about our brothers and sisters. It's the reason why we stand here. It's the reason why we make a stand. And I urge on all of you, in this week that we are paying condolences, it's supposed to be a sacred week where we mourn the first president who brought through the Banjul Charter. I implore unto you to make that stand. Take a stand today. If you do not take a stand today, it might be too late. Killa Ace was dragged from the Kairaba police station with heavily armed 2 trucks, pickup trucks, of heavily armed security officers, singled out from all the rest of the detainees. And these people came with arms. Are we still living in this day and age of Yaya Jammeh, or are we in a new dispensation? Taking a loan to Banjul police headquarters to intimidate him. On the way, they made a stop by, guess where? Mile 2. To further intimidate him. And then they drove along. They didn't pass by NIA this time. To further intimidate him. What we know is that the intimidation has continued and it is unabated. Killa Ace currently in detention with hardened criminals, exposed to people who he most likely has been advocating against. Right now, Mile 2, a place where it's full to capacity. A place where it's full to capacity. The government decided to take the decision of sending another 37 people into Mile 2, worsening the situation of those who are currently there, because they will have to share those resources with them, and those who have been brought in, who have not, even their charges have not been read yet. Are we going to sit down and watch injustice continue to take place? Or are we going to take a stand and decide that we are no longer going to let injustice take place? We have a letter to the authorities, and we've circulated it to the press. We are urging on the security. We have a lot of hope in the National Human Rights Commission and all the aforementioned authorities that have been listed out here to do the due diligence, to go and see, is justice being applied? The 37 people that have been taken to Mile 2, your taxpayers, our taxpayers' money is being used to feed these people who came voluntarily, reporting to police constantly. And on that same fateful day, on Tuesday, they reported to police voluntarily, to then be whisked away to Mile 2, people who voluntarily came, so that our taxpayers will be used to incarcerate our brothers and sisters. I say no to that. And I want you to join me in saying no to our taxpayers being used to incarcerate our brothers and sisters in this country. Is selective justice being applied here? The cousin of Usman Dabo, Omar Jabi, we understand he is no longer in custody. And we feel rightfully so. So should all the others, should no longer be rightfully in custody. He was present at Usman Dabo's funeral. He was. And he is one of the accused, mentioned in the court case. He fell down on that day in the court because he was very sick. They requested that he sits down. Our authorities, instead of allowing somebody who is sick to sit down, refused him to sit down. He collapsed there, halting the proceedings of the court for minutes before it could continue. Are our brothers and sisters being treated with dignity? Are we not the taxpayers who are paying the magistrates, the courts, the system, the police officers that are dragging our brothers? Is that not our taxpayers' money? Is it justified to use it to perpetrate gross injustice on them? People who haven't been yet convicted, denied simple things like books to read whilst they're held in Mile 2, so that they can make good use of their time whilst they are being held there, even though they choose to incarcerate them with our taxpayers' money. They are being denied books, simple things, so that they can use that, know their human rights. Does the police not want us to know our human rights? Does the prison system don't want inmates to know what is their human rights? Treating them with dignity, shaving off their head. Is this dignity? For somebody who is not a convicted criminal, whose charges has not even been read yet? I think we are at an important time in this new democracy which we want to build, in this new Gambia that we want to create, the new Gambia which our children will live in, and the further future generations will live in. I want to conclude with a few statements from the letter which we've circulated, and we really want you all to have a look at it and share it with your medium. For a renowned ambassador of the Gambia, like Killa is, who was forced into exile under former President Yahya Jammeh, for standing up against injustice, it's unfortunate to see Killa is being treated even worse in this current administration. We implore on the citizens, we implore on the offices which are mentioned up here, to demand for the immediate release and to be granted bail similar to that afforded to numerous suspects, such as the junglers. The mere fact that this current government can treat junglers better than Killa is, and 36 others, speaks volumes about the Gambia's ability to say never again. Do we really mean never again? When will we mean never again? When will it start? Finally, we wish to remind the government security apparatus of its duty to secure the lives and property of people in the Gambia. So far, the government's approach is to investigate the destruction of properties, while the investigation of the above-mentioned deaths, Keba Seka and, God bless his soul, Usman Dabo, have not been progressed. For us, Team Gomsabopa, for us concerned youths and the rest of my panelists here, for us young people, youth of the Gambia, we say this is unacceptable, and we implore on the government and the necessary authorities to rectify this immediately by prioritizing life over property. Life over property. And this is our statement on behalf of Team Gomsabopa. For the Gambia, our homeland, we shall continue to give everything, even if it means throwing us in jail. And we implore on this authority, on the government, to take a stand, or else the youths will demand that all of us be locked up in jail. Touch one, touch all.
léegi lu waa seer na te it weer bu dee nit taxaw la tàllal la loxo ah dama ne askan bi jox leen ma seen noppa ndaxte Kayra Sow Properties ñoom ñoo ñëw nag génne fi loolu bam set wecc ne néegi luwaas kenn du ko fayati ndaxte ñu ngi leen amal bërëbu dëkkeekaay yu yàñña dëkkeekaay yi nga xamante ne nii ñu ngi ko jaayee foofu sa Lamin Kerewan bërëbu dëkkeekaay yi nag li nga xam ne moom mooy ndox ak courant mu fa lépp loo soxla sa wàllu dëkkeekaay Kayra Sow Investment Limited mu ngi la ko fa amal Kayra Sow Investment Limited nag seen bërëbu dëkkeekaay yi ñu ngi ko jaayee si cash price muy jar si $200,000 dalasi $250,000 dalasi $250,000 dalasi mortgage nag foo ko dégg mooy fay nanka ba fay bi jeex nga fay ko si diiri juróom benn weer ah dama ne Kayra Sow Properties njaaxare jeex na coono jeex na tëddal nelaw si sa kër boo nelawee sa gannaaw ba nag Kayra Sow Properties daw leen dem seeti seen kër yi foofu noonu